Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be making some vintage recipes, which I haven't done in such a long time, but ever since I reorganized my cookbooks, I've been feeling really inspired lately. So this one we are doing a dip from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I believe this originated in the 1950s. Possibly by the Lipton soup company, I'm not sure, but I know that for years and maybe even still, they've had this recipe on their box of onion soup mix. I've actually never heard it called California dip before until I found this picture, but this was even mentioned on, I think it was season 1 of Mad Men when Pete is showing off his chip and dip set, the infamous set that everybody wants.
And they had one. It had sour cream with these little brown onions in it. It was very good.
So I actually have this dish that has the recipe right on it, although I think it might be slightly different than what's on the Lipton soup box, but I found this dish thrifting probably 5 or 6 years ago. I think I only paid like 10 cents for it as well, but I just love it. I've thought about putting it on the wall, maybe like hanging it on my kitchen wall, but I don't have a lot of wall space, so I figured we'd use it for this. So I'm using a dairy-free version of sour cream. This is my favorite brand of sour cream, Tofutti. It is a little bit thicker, I think, than regular sour cream, but I also use onion soup mix all the time, so I just keep a jar full of it. And this recipe called for garlic salt, but I do only use garlic powder, so I'm just kind of substituting that. I'm sure everyone knows this dip recipe. I feel like it's a staple for a lot of people growing up. It definitely was in my house, and I still make it all the time as well. It's just so good and so easy. And just because like I said, this dairy-free sour cream is just a little bit thicker, I kind of like to mash all of it together with a fork, which was difficult to do one-handed. I find this one to be good if you make it the day before. I feel like it gets better as it sits in the fridge and kind of melts together. The little pieces of onion get soft, and I think it's best with just plain ruffled chips. I do use a low sodium version, but it's fine with full sodium as well. Next up from the 1960s is one from the Betty Crocker cookbook. So this is one of my favorite cookbooks. I keep it on display in my kitchen. It's very fitting for my kitchen. I do have the new and revised version, which this was the third printing from 1980, but this book was originally printed in the 1960s. So this is a cream cheese tuna dip. This is the one I tried to pick something that was very retro, and I feel like tuna was used in a lot of retro recipes. I mean, not that people don't use tuna now, but you know what I mean. So I just happened to have some tuna-less tuna, so I figured this would be a great time to test it out. Obviously, I'm using plant-based ingredients because I'm vegan, but obviously you don't have to use plant-based ingredients. And this is one of my favorite brands of cream cheese as well. I think it's very comparable to a dairy version. We've got some horseradish, some mayo, and the recipe called for red pepper sauce, which I've never heard of that before. It only takes 1/8 of a teaspoon, I think, so I just substitute it for sriracha because that's what I had in the fridge. I'm going to use some soy milk for that as well. They do, underneath the recipe, provide a few different options. Personally, I think this would be really good with ham. I don't have like a vegan version, but like a can of flaked ham I think would be really good in this. So this was super easy to put together. Basically, you just mix everything up in a bowl. I did let the cream cheese come to room temperature on the counter just so it would be easier to mix up. It was pretty runny and I was a little bit worried, but then I realized the cream cheese was really soft, so I figured it would kind of firm up a little in the fridge. And I'm just gonna put it in this vintage bowl. This is from a chip and dip set, I believe. I just found the small part. I didn't find the big one, but I thought it was very 60s looking, so I thought I would go ahead and put it in that and put it in the fridge to kind of firm up a little. And it said to sprinkle paprika on the very top of it. And I had this little tray that I've had for a while. I've never used it before. It kind of has a spice of life pattern, so I thought I would use that. I just had it out with some crackers on it. This was actually my least favorite out of all of them, but it wasn't bad. I don't know if I'd be in a hurry to make it again. So next we have the 1970s. I'm using the Better Homes and Gardens Snacks and Appetizers cookbook. If you know, you know I have a massive collection of Better Homes and Gardens cookbooks. They're some of my all-time favorites. So this one was from 1974. This one was an incredibly easy dip to make. So it's called a hot bean dunk. Now I thought that the dip would actually be hot itself, but I think they're just referring to the spice. I don't know, because it didn't say to heat it, although I think it would be really great heated. But you only need 3 ingredients: a can of beans, some cottage cheese, which I just had to make my own plant-based version, so it did take a little longer for me. The texture didn't turn out quite like a dairy version, so I think it would probably be better with a actually dairy version. And I'm just using some chili seasoning. I did use the low sodium version as well, so I guess I'm cheating a little, but I don't typically add a lot of salt to food, or really any, so your taste buds kind of change over time. So now if I have something with a lot of salt, it just tastes really bad. But this one was so easy. Just threw it in the food processor, blend it together. I have this tiny little Corelle little baking dish. It doesn't have a pattern on it, it's just plain. So it was the perfect size to fit all of the dip inside. And then I had another one of these wooden trays with a little kind of spice of life motif in the middle there. And I believe that you can put hot things on that. That's what that middle part is for. So I could have heated it, but I'm just serving it with, it said to serve with corn chips. So I have some of those and some just blue corn tortilla chips. And this one was quite good. I think it would be really good with cream cheese or sour cream in place of the cottage cheese. So next up is the 1980s, which I have this little spiral bound book from the 1980s. I believe that this is from Canada where I live. I believe, I don't know if this was self-published or what, but I absolutely love this book. I did look on eBay and Etsy to see if anyone was selling it. I think I did find one on Etsy, which I'll link below. Just in case anybody wants it. I think it's a very, very good book. It doesn't have a lot of photos, so it's really jam-packed with recipes. So we're making this dilly dip, and I have to say, I make dip like this all the time, not using this recipe, and I love it. But this recipe in particular was amazing, and I think it's because of this seasoned salt, which I bought specifically for this recipe, and this accent, which I figured was MSG, and I was right. So I'm thinking it has to be because of the MSG that it made it so amazing. In fact, since I originally filmed this recipe, which was quite a few weeks ago, I think I've made it 3 or 4 more times. It's one of the best dips I've ever had, so it has to be because of the MSG. I've never used it before, but the recipe called for it, so I figured I would use it for the recipe. I don't think MSG is very good for you, though. This one's also incredibly easy. You just mix everything together. And like with the onion dip at the beginning of the video, I think it is best if you make it the day before, or at least a few hours before you're going to use it, because it just gets better as time passes. The only thing I did different was, instead of chopping up onion, I just used some dehydrated onion, so I felt like that would be better. And so once I tried it and realized how amazing it was, I looked at the accent bottle and I noticed that little thing says wakes up flavor. So I was like, okay, I guess that's what MSG does, makes things taste better. I don't know, but it has to be that because I make dip like this all the time. So this dip is amazing with raw vegetables. Raw vegetables is one of my favorite foods ever. I could eat it every single day and not get sick of it. So I just got out this big glass platter that I have, chopped up some vegetables and had it with that. But like I said, the dip was so good that I made it several more times, and I've had it with chips as well, and it's really good. So I wanted to show that off because I just love this chip and dip set. I think it's from the 60s, maybe 70s, but I have it in a couple different colors, but I just love it. So that is it for my first recipe video in, I don't know, probably like a year or more, I don't know. But if you enjoyed this video, I wanted to let you know about another channel who does vintage recipes every single week. Her name's Anna. Her channel is called Cooking the Books, and which is a brilliant name, but she does vintage recipe videos every single Sunday. She has a huge cookbook collection, and she also does videos where she shows what she eats in a day, but she picks like a different decade. So like what I ate in a day, and it'll be all 1960s recipes, which is really interesting and cool. So if you don't already know, I'm going to leave her channel linked below because I think it's a really great channel, and I think that a lot of you would also enjoy it. Her latest video that she just posted, actually just yesterday, is a video of ham recipes, like to use up leftover ham, because you know a lot of people have ham for Easter. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it so much, and I will see you again very soon.